Hey everyone, and welcome to Boston Autoblog. I think it's safe to say that around the price range of $20,000 to $30,000, subcompact crossovers have completely taken over the market. Compact sedans, subcompact cars, and even hatchbacks are all in trouble when it comes to the sales figures that these vehicles experience. But I think a lot of people in 2020 would look at subcompact crossovers as being the modern day econo boxes, as they're fuel efficient, practical, and for the most part, affordable. Also, I think a lot of people right now, especially car enthusiasts or people who are looking for a great daily driver, would look at subcompact crossovers as being numb, dull, and really all around boring. But for the 2021 Mazda CX-30 Premium, that couldn't be any further from the truth, as I've got to experience this car for the last 24 hours, and I have to say, what Mazda has done to this vehicle, and really what they've offered in the subcompact crossover segment, there is absolutely no one coming close to what the CX-30 has to offer. I am going to say this right now, that the Mazda CX-30 is the gold standard for the subcompact crossover segment, and I'm going to show you why in this video. I really truly believe that if more brands offered what Mazda is doing right here with this vehicle, the subcompact crossover segment would be more enjoyable, fun to drive, and also certainly worth the price around $30,000. So in this video, we're going to take a good long look at the Mazda CX-30 and see why, if you're looking for an entry-level luxury subcompact crossover, but not willing to pay around $35,000 to $40,000, then going with the Mazda CX-30 might be a great decision. Now, before I get in this review, I'd like to thank Prime Mazda in Norwood, Massachusetts for allowing me to do this review and also letting me take this vehicle home so I could fully experience what Mazda has to offer with the CX-30. Their link will be in the description below so you can check out their extensive Mazda inventory. And so, without wasting any further time, let's get right in this review. There's no doubt that subcompact and compact crossovers are popular in the United States. But where they often fall short in the eyes of some consumers is that they're not jack of all trades. They're practical, but not necessarily fun to drive. And for buyers on a budget, sacrifices are often made, leaving much more to be desired. Mazda, understanding this, introduced the CX-30, which slots between the smaller CX-3 and more family-friendly CX-5 to bring a sporty and agile twist to a mundane segment. Not only is this Japanese manufacturer trying to redefine how we perceive crossovers, but introducing entry-level luxury design and interior quality has also become a top priority. Starting off with pricing, the Mazda CX-30 Premium comes in at $31,645. And this also includes the optional $1,500 all-wheel drive system. While many would argue that the CX-30 is directly related to the Mazda 3 hatchback, there are some differences in terms of appearance and dimensions, but both do share the same underpinnings. Compared to its smaller sibling, the CX-30 is about 5 inches longer and an inch wider than the CX-3, but is a few inches shorter than the Mazda 3. More importantly for this crossover is a ground clearance of around 7 inches, which will make this vehicle somewhat off-road worthy and most certainly offers year-round versatility. Up front, the Mazda CX-30 brings a sleek and classy design quality, with very few body lines dominating the appearance of this crossover, to have a very modern and futuristic style. The combination of the soul red paint with the gloss black grille and chrome accents comes together perfectly, providing an almost luxury crossover-like presence. With the premium trim, Mazda's signature LED headlights help illuminate dimly lit roads. And unlike most conventionally designed vehicles in this segment, the turn signal indicators are mounted just above the plastic cladding to add a sense of minimalism to the front fascia. Moving over to the side profile, the CX-30 sits on 18-inch aluminum alloy wheels wrapped in all-season tires, which come standard for all trims except for the base model. Differentiating the CX-30 from the Mazda 3 is the aggressive plastic cladding around the wheel arches to give this crossover more off-road appeal, and to let you know it's not a lifted hatchback. You'll get body color folding side mirrors with memory positioning and power adjustability to go along with integrated turn signal indicators for an upscale look. As we make our way around to the back, the plastic cladding dominates the lower portion of the rear fascia, which is to be expected of a subcompact crossover in this price range. But the contrast between the soul red exterior paint and gloss black rear spoiler brings a bit of sportiness to the CX-30, while also resembling the Mazda 3 hatchback to a certain degree. Just like up front, you will have LED taillights, with the turn signal indicators having a cool fade effect, which sadly won't show up on camera. But overall, the design and road presence of the CX-30 differs greatly from the boxiness we see throughout this segment. Under the hood, the Mazda CX-30 is powered by a 2.5-liter 4-cylinder engine that puts out 186 horsepower and 186 pound-feet of torque, and is paired with a 6-speed automatic transmission to make this vehicle one of the more powerful options in the subcompact crossover segment. However, if 186 horsepower isn't enough, coming soon will be a turbocharged engine that will give you a much more engaged driving experience with 250 horsepower. As mentioned earlier, our model does have all-wheel drive to better suit the lives of consumers in colder regions of the US, but front-wheel drive will come standard. For fuel economy, you can expect to see right around 24 miles per gallon in the city and 31 miles per gallon on the highway. Inside, we're greeted by heated white leather seats for both the driver and passenger, with the driver's side having power adjustability and 2-position memory seats to help you find the ideal seating position. It wouldn't be a stretch to say that once you get behind the wheel, you find yourself in a pleasant environment with soft touch padding and leather materials found throughout. In front of you, in between the analog gauges, a digital display will provide additional information, such as your fuel efficiency, while also notifying you if someone is in your blind spots. It's not the most complex display, but certainly offers a nice upscale resolution and quality. For the premium, you'll also have a head-up display with traffic sign recognition. And I know what you're thinking, those burnout marks up ahead are certainly not from the CX-30. Moving over to the infotainment system, this user interface does not function as a touchscreen, and instead, you'll have a rotary dial, touchpad, volume and tuning knob, and quick access buttons to quickly and easily get you to different menus. For 2021, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility do come standard for all trims, and with our model being a premium, you'll have onboard navigation to go along with the upgraded 12-speaker Bose premium audio system to enhance the sound of your favorite music. Resolution and responsiveness are actually quite impressive, and while the infotainment system is relatively simplistic, it does provide a more upscale perception, especially when it comes to the quality. Of course, you will have a rear backup camera, and for additional safety when in a parking lot, you'll also have rear cross-traffic alert. As we move our way down towards the center console, the minimalistic interior design continues, with the buttons and dials for your dual-zone climate control, 3-level heated seats, air conditioning, and fan speed. Below, you'll find a cubby for your smartphone and a USB input. Unlike most vehicles in 2020, the drive mode selector is basically normal and sport mode, which does affect throttle response, steering input, and gear shifts, but it was a bit of a surprise that there's no eco mode for better fuel efficiency. For the center storage compartment, there will be an adjustable armrest with soft touch padding to add a subtle hint of luxury, and inside you'll find plenty of room for a smartphone and small items and also an additional USB input. And rounding out the front seating area, above will be a power moonroof to let in a lot of natural light into the interior. Now for passengers in the back, we're going to start off on the driver's side, and I adjusted the seat to someone of my height, around 5'5", and I have a good amount of legroom to work with here. Now obviously the CX-30 is a subcompact crossover, so keep that in mind. I do think if you're on maybe 5'8", 5'9", and your driver is short like me, around 5'5", then I think you should be comfortable. But when it comes to headroom, the Mazda CX-30 is essentially a lifted hatchback, and it's going to have a hatchback-like roofline. So if you're looking for something a little more conventional and a little more spacious, then upgrade to a Mazda CX-5. Now when it comes to the center seat, there are some good placements for my feet, but I just don't think you can fit a third person back here practically on a daily basis. And it has nothing to do with legroom. It's more about the shoulder room, because I would feel very claustrophobic, and I just don't think, even for average sized adults, you could fit 3 people back here. This is better suited for just 2, so definitely keep that in mind. I mean, you probably could squeeze one on a very, very, very short drive, but this is definitely just a 4-passenger vehicle overall. And then on the passenger side, I adjusted the seat further back. It's also somewhat on a recline. And I still have a few inches of legroom to work with, but this is really where you see just how compact this crossover really is. So I do think that this vehicle is better suited for someone who doesn't have a family, someone that's not going to have people in the back at all times. And this is really just for that urban lifestyle where if you and a roommate or you and a significant other are, living together in Boston or any of the bigger cities, this vehicle suits that. You have the practicality, you have the legroom on those times that you need to have a friend or two back here, and it's just a great size vehicle for parking this vehicle in the city. Also back here, you will get 2 rear air vents with a dial that controls airflow. And of course, we're not going to have heated rear seats back here. It's very, very, very rare to see that in this segment, and I just don't expect that even at $31,000. And then rounding out the rear seating area, you will get a center armrest with 2 cup holders. Now coming around to the back, you will get a power liftgate for the Mazda CX-30 Premium. You can do this one of 3 ways. There's a button on the inside on the dashboard, or you can open the latch like a normal hatchback or crossover, or you can press and hold the button on the key fob. And inside, you're going to find right around 20.2 cubic feet of rear cargo, which is right in line with a lot of its competitors, but it's by no means the most practical in this segment. I think there's enough room for groceries, smaller items, and daily tasks. Of course, there's certainly enough room for luggage if you're going on a vacation, maybe going to the mountains this time of year. And then with the rear seats folded down, that space more than doubles in size. So this vehicle is definitely practical for an urban consumer, someone who lives in the city and maybe does not have a family. I think that's what Mazda's going for. This vehicle is not meant for someone who has kids or is going to have people in the back at all times. And really, this is just suitable for maybe a married couple or just you and a significant other. So definitely practical for daily use in that regard. Now, not equipped on this Mazda CX-30, and I'd assume it's been removed because it might get stolen since this is a loaner car, you would get a cargo cover, which keeps all your valuable items out of sight. So if you are like me and have camera gear and you're kind of afraid someone might peek in and see what you have, that cargo cover will keep everything hidden. And then beneath the cargo floor, you'll find a spare tire. So if you do encounter a flat on your travels, you can fix that and be back on the road. And then finally, with the power liftgate, instead of having to reach for it, just once again, press and hold the button on the key fob, and the liftgate will close automatically. All right, so let's get started on my favorite portion of these reviews lately, and that is the test drive. So I've had the Mazda CX-30 for about 14 to 16 hours now, and my impressions have really changed over this period of time because the Mazda CX-30 is going up against competition such as the Kia Seltos, the Chevrolet Trailblazer, the Subaru Crosstrek, and a number of other subcompact crossovers. And when you think of subcompact crossovers, I think today a lot of people would say that they're the modern day econoboxes. They're affordable, they're practical, and they're fuel efficient. But the Mazda CX-30 is something different. Now when it comes to steering input, It's actually very tight and direct. It gives me a very European-like driving experience and feel, and that's exactly what's going to captivate me behind the wheel. When it comes to subcompact crossovers, it's always uninspiring. It's not something that you feel like you want to drive all the time. The CX-30, on the other hand, is actually a very enjoyable car for what it is, and this doesn't even have the turbo. So with 186 horsepower and 186 pound-feet of torque, this thing is actually pretty peppy. So let's put this in sport mode. We're going to get on the highway here. It actually gets up to speed pretty quickly. And what I notice immediately is that it's actually very torquey. You get a lot of torque on the low end, right around 2,000 to 3,000 RPM, and you just take right off. And I understand this is not a sports car by any means. It's a daily commuter, but you can get on the highway very quickly. You can get around slower drivers. And also the thing too is that when you're on the highway, you don't really hear a lot of road noise. So this vehicle is very well insulated, and it gives you a luxury feel. I think at around $30,000, this is pretty high value. Now, I have coined the Mazda CX-30 as the gold standard of the subcompact crossover segment. And I think a lot of people would argue, well, it's not the most practical in this segment. It's also not the largest. And when it comes to rear passengers, they're going to be very cramped. It's very similar to a hatchback. And that's to be expected because the CX-30 is, in fact, a Mazda 3, or really a lifted version of the Mazda 3. But there's more to a vehicle than dimensions and size. It comes down to comfort, luxury, and technology. Now, when it comes to the comfort aspect and the driving comfort, again, I just don't think there's a vehicle that comes close to this at all. I really honestly don't. You feel very planted behind the wheel and on the road, and I think it really helps that this vehicle is based off of a hatchback. But also, these leather seats are super comfortable, and when it comes to the technology aspect, we do have regular analog gauges, but we have a nice digital display in the center that's very high quality. We also have a heads-up display that is very bright and very well illuminated. And when you have cars on either side of you in your blind spots, it will let you know in front of you on the heads-up display. It will also let you know on the digital display in the center of your analog gauges. So there is no way you're going to, turn into someone else on the highway. It's just not possible. This vehicle is actually pretty safe. But also, when it comes to the technology aspect with the 8.8-inch screen, it's not a touch screen, which I don't mind because I have a rotary dial, touchpad, and quick access buttons. And this reminds me what we see in BMW products. So I have a nice perception of being in a luxury vehicle, despite the fact that it is a Mazda. And when I was filming this vehicle early in the morning, and I was looking at just how the car is designed and the interior layout, I'm like, is this really a Mazda? Is it really a car that right now goes up against Honda and Toyota? And I think that's really where this vehicle certainly surprises, and I think definitely is the reason why it draws such high numbers when people review this vehicle. It's a very nice car. It really is. It's a great overall vehicle that is practical for daily purposes, and I think Mazda was really focusing on having a vehicle that really focuses on younger people who don't necessarily have a family, maybe have a significant other, they live in the city, and they need a vehicle that they can tool around town or the city in, and that's exactly what the Mazda CX-30 is. This vehicle is very maneuverable, and you can park it in very tight spots. But this vehicle is actually very enjoyable to drive overall, very relaxing and smooth, which is exactly what I want to see at around $30,000. Once again, I feel as though that I'm in a luxury car. I really do. I feel as though that I'm in a competitor to Lexus, Acura, and Infiniti, and I'm paying nowhere close to that price at $31,000. So I think there's a really good value for the price for this vehicle, and that's one of the reasons why I say that this is the gold standard of the subcompact crossover segment. If more brands would give us driving dynamics like this, give us the comfort features, a nice leather trimmed dashboard and these really nice leather seats, and even just an infotainment system that's very responsive, which is the rotary dial and touchpad, I think I'd be very happy. I think the whole perception of these vehicles being dull and boring and just not really enjoyable to drive would completely change if these brands would just give us something similar to what the Mazda CX-30 offers. And that's one of the reasons why I would say, if you're looking for a subcompact crossover that you don't necessarily need a vehicle the size of, say, a CX-5 or, maybe even a compact crossover, then I think the CX-30 is perfect. Obviously, again, you will have to sacrifice some rear legroom in the back and maybe even some cargo space, but 20.2 cubic feet of rear cargo room is right in line with most hatchbacks on the market. And I think that if you want a vehicle that's a little more off-road versatile, that can get you through snow a little bit better than a hatchback, I think the CX-30 is definitely the vehicle for you. But after this test drive and spending hours with this crossover, I have to say, this is the closest we are going to get to perfection in this segment and price range for a subcompact crossover. And I've been trying to figure out for weeks, what is the Volkswagen GTI version of the subcompact crossover segment, or just subcompact crossovers in general? And I literally couldn't find one at around $30,000. I think the closest would be the BMW X2 M35i and also the Mercedes-Benz GLA 35 AMG. But you're talking a price range of around $40,000 to $50,000. And that's just a little too much out of budget for most people. However, in a few months, Mazda is going to drop in a turbo under the hood of the CX-30, which will give us 250 horsepower and 320 pound-feet of torque. And that is going to change up everything. So on paper, it's more powerful than a GTI. It might not necessarily be as quick. But when you look at subcompact crossovers and really vehicles in this price range, they usually top off at around 258 pound-feet of torque and right around 228 horsepower. This breaks that barrier. And when you have 250 horsepower and 320 pound-feet of torque at your disposal, you have a vehicle that's going to outperform every single subcompact crossover and most compact sedans in this price range. And I love what Mazda is doing. I really honestly do. The interiors are simplistic, which isn't a bad thing at all. Very user-friendly. I love the technology aspect when it comes to the infotainment system. The fact that it's not a touchscreen, but I do have a rotary dial, quick access buttons, and a touchpad just gives me a BMW and really an older Audi-like feel. And then also I do have a digital display in the center of my analog gauges, so I have the best of both worlds. I have the traditional layout of the analog gauges. I have some technology aspect. I have some safety features. And I just think that at $31,000, you are just not going to find any better. So at the end of the day, the Mazda CX-30 is going to surprise a lot of people if you haven't experienced this vehicle already. I personally like the interior layout of this car. It's perfect, it's simplistic, and also, of course, my favorite feature is the infotainment system that pairs very well with this rotary dial, touchpad, and quick access buttons to go along with the volume and tuning knob. And this is a very similar setup to what we see in BMWs and older Audis on the MQB platform. Now, of course, this is not going to compare to maybe interiors such as Lexus, Acura, and Infiniti when it comes to just layout and more of that luxury appeal. But at $31,000, I would not be hesitant to say that this is an entry-level luxury subcompact crossover. In my mind, it's the gold standard of this segment, and I just personally don't think that when it comes to comfort, luxury, technology, and even driving dynamics, that anyone comes even close in this price range. But really, the more important aspect of the Mazda CX-30 that really truly impressed me was the driving experience and driving dynamics. Because when it comes to vehicles in this segment, they're not very fun. They're not enjoyable to drive. And steering is always very loose. It's not very direct. It's just not overall enjoyable. The Mazda CX-30, on the other hand, for what it is, at 186 horsepower and 186 pound-feet of torque, it's a very fun car to drive. It's very fun to tool around the city, even on the highway as well. You feel a lot of torque on the low end, which gets you up to speed very quickly. Now, I'm looking forward to the turbo that gets put under the hood of this car, because with 250 horsepower and 320 pound-feet of torque, this vehicle is certainly going to change the game. It's going to make owning a subcompact crossover most certainly worth it. And if you're just looking for something a little extra when it comes to practicality, then I think you have to seriously consider upgrading to a Mazda CX-30, because it's going to give you that performance, it's going to give you the driving dynamics, but also that practicality. So in my opinion, I think you should wait on this car just a little bit longer, go with the turbo if you can, around $31,000 to $35,000, but that's an estimate right now. We'll find out shortly. But if you don't care about the performance and you're just looking for a nice, comfortable, and soothing driving experience, which that's what it really is, it's a very enjoyable car to cruise around in and maybe go on long trips, then I think going with the Mazda CX-30 Premium at around $31,000 is most certainly one of the best decisions you can make if you're looking to buy a subcompact crossover. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys next time.